Hey guys, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're going to be doing a comic book review. We're going to be looking at issue number 1 of Transformers by Daniel Warren Johnson, who is both the writer and artist, with colors by Mike Spicer, and with letters by Ross Wooten, I think is how you say his name. This issue is a great start. It's really focused on the Transformers more so than the humans, but there is definitely a very important human element here that I quite like, that I think is good because it allows you to connect with the characters and through them connect with the Transformers. And I like that a lot. I think that, generally speaking, when I look at a Transformers franchise, I'm not really interested in the human characters, but I think that is mostly because most of the time the human characters are quite bad. However, Charlie from Bumblebee and the two characters in the Rise of the Beasts were pretty good. Or actually, there was 3 human characters in that, but I specifically like the Hispanic kid and his older brother, who is the main character. I can't remember his name, but them two specifically are quite good. Elena, I think, is the name of the girl. I like her, but I think that there was definitely not enough for her to do in that. But she is much better than any of the other female characters before, except Charlie, and that is because she wasn't sexualized specifically. Although, I mean, partially, part of the reason why I like Transformers as a kid, or like as a teenager, was like there's awesome robots, cool cars, action sequences, and hot girls, right? And so there's definitely an understandable kind of like aspect to that, but we are kind of past that now. In terms of writing, Elena is much better than any of the other characters. Although, I mean, I guess you could argue that Michaela from the first Transformers movie has some elements to her that are quite well written, but it kind of takes a back seat, right? So, yeah, anyway, the point is that there's really, really good human characters here, and I quite like them. And the Transformers are awesome. So, I'm going to run down through the whole thing. I'm going to actually talk about spoilers, and although at this point, I'm pretty sure most people that wanted to read this have already read it, because there was a huge, a reception to this, so I'm not too afraid of it, but I do want to warn you guys because this is the start of a new series, and I feel like I should be more conscious about the fact that, hey, some people don't like spoilers, right? So, so it opens up with this Bay-esque kind of vibe to it, these helicopters, crossing the sky, this really beautiful orange sky, and it was good. Then we kind of transition down to Spike and his dad talking, and they're at this bar, and Spike goes to talk to his dad because his dad is kind of wasting his life away at the bar. I think because one of his children, Spike's older brother, died, or younger brother. I'm not really sure. It's not really explained, but there is an understanding there that the man is in mourning, but he's not able to conduct himself in a manner that is helpful to his younger son because of this, right? So, yeah, Spike has it rough. He goes outside, he meets with Carly, his friend, who has a really awesome truck. I think that reminds me of the Murder Falcon truck, because I haven't read Murder Falcon, but I know that there is kind of an element of like a band truck in there, and that kind of reminds me of that. But the artwork on the truck is really, really cool. I like it a lot. I think it's fun. And it's also nice that, the human characters have a car and not drive inside the robot all the time. But I'm curious to see how that's going to work out, right? So, they go off into the desert at night. They are setting up their telescope, and because they're trying to go see the stars, in this desert area they live in, and somehow they end up falling into a cave. Except that they actually land on the exhaust of the Teletran one, I think it's like the big ship, and somehow they manage to find a way inside through the rocket exit, basically. I'm not really sure how they would do that, but I'm guessing that due to the sheer size of the ship, there is some way that they can find a way inside through the the engine, right? But I don't know. It is what it is. I'm not really all that interested in it. I thought it was kind of funny that happened. It also reminds me a little bit of Rey scavenging through some of the Star Destroyers, which I think is cool. I don't like those Star Wars movies that much, but some of the imagery is really, really good, right? So, but they managed their way inside the ship, and it turns out that this is a Transformer graveyard, basically. There are Transformers bodies all over the place strewn around, and they're all dead, or basically dead. So what happens is that Jetfire arrives. He uses the ship to wake up Starscream, and then they have an argument because Starscream immediately kills Bumblebee. And that was really exciting and really interesting because Bumblebee is the face of the franchise right now. And the fact that he got dispatched with almost no ceremony, no pomp and circumstance around it was really cool in terms of like, oh shit, I can't believe they did something like that. It's so bold, right? And I liked it a lot. I thought it was great. And then Jetfire and Starscream argue, they fight, and then Optimus Prime wakes up finally, and he uses really cool wrestling moves because I know Daniel Warren Johnson is a fan of wrestling. I'm not, but I appreciate that those moves look cool as fuck, and he does a bunch of them. Like I think he does a suplex or a lariat or something, and it's really, really cool. It looks awesome. Like, you know, Optimus Prime doing these moves is so cool. It looks great. And he uses it on Starscream. Ratchet joins the fray, and Skywarp wakes up as well. Skywarp is another of the Seekers, so he just looks like Starscream, but he has a purple coloring to him instead. And so does Soundwave, and I really like that. Soundwave is a really cool character. I really like him a lot. Ratchet loads up the Autobots onto Optimus's trailer, which magically appears as soon as he realizes that he has been turned into a human vehicle, which is kind of funny. And Daniel Warren Johnson even talks about it in his video where he kind of describes some of the stuff that he was going through when he was developing the story. And it's funny, it's cool. So Optimus moves to Bumblebee. He kind of mourns over the body of Bumblebee. We get to see this through the eyes of the human characters. Starscream attacks. Optimus is losing where Spike and Carly finally decide to help. And so they're having to physically push the gun towards Optimus Prime because this gun is huge, right? I'm not really sure about the scale though, because I don't know if a gun would be that big if the Transformers are only like 12 times taller than them. I'm not really sure because the scaling of Transformers is always weird. I think in the Michael Bay movies, they had to calculate it. If, you know, a car is this big, how big will the character be? And I think Bumblebee, a Camaro, was about 18 feet tall, and Optimus, a trailer, was about 18 feet tall. So that would be about 5 times as big as a human. And if that is the case, I'm not really sure that the gun would be that big, like the way it looks in the comic book. Again, it's not an important detail, but it is something that I noticed that I wanted to comment on. But either way, it looks cool, it's interesting. And it gives the characters agency. They have to do something, partially to help themselves, but also because they're good people and they're trying to help the character that is clearly in distress, right? So it's pretty good. I like that. The Autobots escape. They take Spike and Carly with them, and then they do this awesome thing where they're like kind of mid-transformation, and then they end up transforming, and Carly and Spike are inside them, and specifically inside Optimus Prime. And so they have this chase. Jetfire shows up. Jetfire tries to run interference, and then he gets killed by Starscream. And everyone goes to ground. They go to different places. The Decepticons regroup back at Teletron, and the Autobots are at the quarry. And so what happens now is that the Decepticons are going to go hunting for resources necessary to refine energon so that they can consume it. And along the way, they decide to terrorize some humans, and that is the way that the issue ends. And it was really, really great. I really liked it. I thought it was awesome. The artwork is great. I really like Daniel Warren Johnson's mechanical design, and I really like his creature design as well in general. But I'm not a huge fan of the way he draws humans. But ultimately, I don't have an issue with it because it all works so well. Like it just looks great, even if I don't personally like a certain style that he uses for the human characters. But everything else is awesome. It's really, really wonderful. So overall, really good stuff. If you guys have not read Transformers issue 1, I definitely recommend you guys check it out. I'm not really sure about the rest of the Energon universe, but I know that Transformers itself is quite good. So hopefully this continues on for quite a while. I'm not really sure. I think they were only going to do 6 issues, but that might be wrong. So if it is, that'll be great. If it's not, that'll also be fine. I'm curious to see what they're going to do afterwards. If it is only 6 issues with Daniel Warren Johnson. But he did a great job so far. So definitely check it out. And thank you guys very much for watching. And see you guys later.